Om Shanti, and welcome to this special conversation on spirituality in family life. And to discuss this, we have with us our guests from Hong Kong, Brother Harry and Ayako. Brother Harry has been a household name on TV and radio in Hong Kong for the last 30 years. And he's also a magician and a musician. He's done special work in healing through magic. And Ayako has been a violinist of international repute from Japan, and she's worked with top artists and performed worldwide. Om Shanti and welcome. Very delighted to have you again in the studio.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
The best thing is that you as a family are in spirituality. You've adopted meditative lifestyle along with your 8-year-old son. So it will be very interesting to know your experience. You know, they say that a family which eats together, plays together, and let's say meditates together, stays together. What is your say on that?
Well, I'm sure Ayako would have something to say as a mother, but what I can see as a father in the family is that I think a family needs to have values. And in every relationship we build, there is love, but in a family, there should be values. And I think spirituality, particularly this knowledge that we are applying to our family, is the best values that we can give to the family. It has all the important things, such as tolerance, respect, collaboration, cooperation, and as we all know that there is actually 11 or 12 different values that we can apply to. And also, apart from these values that come with very practical kind of examples from everyday life to when we are looking into bettering ourselves, we can use these values. And also come with the full package also is to tell us what are the not so nice things about human being. And it tells us up front that there are 5 vices that we believe. You know, there is first of all the lust that I'm sure kids doesn't understand very much, but anger is very popular. And in fact, it is getting more and more popular amongst not just adults, but with kids. In the school as well. How wonderful it is when you can use that as example, and then you can show how to have a peaceful life. So there is the understanding of the not so good things, the 5, cause of why this whole universe is such a chaos. And then we also, most importantly, to know that there is Baba, who is very giving, loving, and always tolerant. And the reason why is because Baba is not a human being. Even mom and dad sometimes cannot stand their kids, whereas Baba can't. And so we can actually teach our kids not just as father and mother who play a very straightforward role, but sometimes we play the role of daughter and son to Baba as well. So with that, I think there's nothing better to teach your kids than to be a role model. We always say, don't teach with your mouth, teach with your actions. People always forget what you say, but people will never forget that impression you leave. So we always believe that we also have to put it in action. So the whole thing is just a beautiful automatic system. So for me, thanks Baba, because it gives me something most valuable to the whole family.
Very beautiful, and I think I'll come back to you. But Ayako, what is your take on that?
Actually, you said eating together, playing together, but we are also learning together. And sometimes we really learn from our 8-year-old son. We are eating dinner, and suddenly he'll stop and he will say, Mommy, I know what is happiness. So we say, what is happiness? And he say, when we don't get what we want, we can be still happy. Then that is a real happiness. You can choose to be happy, whether you get what you want or not. And sometimes he will say, I know in this life, no one is viceless. Yes, but I don't know where it comes from, but he actually listened to the knowledge, keep it, he doesn't talk about it, but suddenly it comes out, and in most unexpected time and unexpected way, and we really learn from him, you know. So we learn together, we progress together, so we can encourage each other. So it is our really fortune that we have gyan, we have a knowledge at home.
Yeah.
Knowledge of Raj Yoga means.
That's right. Yeah, sometimes, you know, as a mother, sometimes I almost lose temper, I get angry. Then my son will say, "Mommy, do you want to do it again in 5,000 years' time?" You did it 5,000 years ago, do you want to do it again? So I stop and then calm down, right? So it's really fantastic.
See, this is very interesting because without this knowledge, which is very together, it's a unity. Because we are not just saying, "Listen, you have to do it." We're saying, "Listen, I have to do it, you have to do it, how about we all do it?" Therefore, there is only one standard, there is no double standard. And what Ayako was mentioning about our 8-year-old now, when he was talking about happiness, his concept about happiness was 4 years ago. He was only 4 years old. And it was just a matter of a few days ago, he said to me, he said, "Actually, Dad, can you just stop telling people that story? You know, I feel very embarrassed." I said, "But it is true." He said, "But I have new recognition."
Of happiness.
Really? I said, "Yes." He said, "Yes. Would you like to hear about it?" That's what he said. He said, "The word cheerful." What cheerful? He said, "That is cheerful." He said, "That actually is the, in a way, it is the vehicle. So think about being cheerful. Therefore, you will be happy." So happy can be sometimes very elusive. It's very difficult to translate. But be cheerful, then you'll feel happy. And even if you don't get what you want, be cheerful, because it is the act of being cheerful that brings on happiness. So I thought, you can really learn from someone who is as young as him. And it's true. Very often I think parents and people who actually they go to school and be educated overrate education. Because we think that how important it is that kids do well in school. But is it true? Does every kid actually were made to be good in school and academic? I don't think so. But definitely every kid has the right to be happy and find the real values of life. And they have the right now to meet that beautiful Baba that we know. So that is our job. Why did I say that? Because I think a human being has a very long history. I don't want to go into exactly how long, but compare with the history of schooling. This so-called education system we have now in India, as well as in America, in Japan, in England or Hong Kong, everywhere, which is sophisticated, is only 200 years old. And the history of education itself was to train people to be obedient, and so that they will just do what they were told. And it's very obvious that actually kids are not like that anymore.
Absolutely.
They outshine this system already. So if schooling, if we are still, but parents can only teach kids what they believe. Therefore, we are very old-fashioned in education. Now, this knowledge that we have now is not. This knowledge is cool, is new, is ever ready, and is ever new.
Very interesting, because you're talking about kids, and especially, you know, the most common belief is that meditation, spirituality is for the ones who are retired, who are old, and we're talking about kids as young as 4, 5. Tell us more, through your experience, the impact of introducing meditation for children, who are young children, still understanding and, you know, trying to learn and educate themselves. How important it is, and what is the way and method to introduce spirituality at such a young age? Because you have an experience of raising a kid yourself.
How important? Extremely important, as we know, because when we know that it is as beautiful as diamond, as useful as anything, you know, as useful as a Swiss knife, I would say, you know, I can't think of anything right now. So you want your kid to have it. Then we quickly go on to the method. Now, through my experience with working with children and educating them for a very long time, I realized that children really get it. They are very pure. They still come with their past life experience very often. They tell you wonderful stories. So what we have to do first of all as adult is active listening. Don't say anything and absorb, because only then their creativity will run wild. They will be more confident. And then also I found that children actually are most receptive to meditation. I used to do hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and I realized children are very easy. As soon as you go, okay, we are butterfly today, you don't even have to do anything. Oh, I'm flying. They already are everywhere. So their imagination is really in touch with the Supreme. And so it would be really a pity if we don't use that. For example, every beautiful story is a very good scenario. Imagine, we are all kids as well, right? Imagine if we are Alibaba, imagine we actually ends up on a beautiful beach and suddenly we see something shiny, we walk closer to it, it's actually a beautiful bottle, and I've seen it before. I know there is a genie inside. Now, go and rub that bottle. This, we are already doing it. And that is a wonderful way of bringing our kids into realization of fantasy. And very, very soon, they actually are on the fast path. Actually, kids really get it. Because our kid is, at first we were really worried because I'm Chinese, my wife is Japanese, and we have to communicate in English. So we thought, when our son comes into being, what is it going to be, right? But what happened then?
He doesn't get confused at all. He would choose what language to speak to whom. So we didn't have to worry about it.
I think he knows 5 languages, 4.5
Almost,
or 5.
almost.
But most important of all is above language, we see that not just the application of the language itself, but the thinking behind that language. Because when he is using Japanese, his sense of humor is Japanese sense of humor.
It's interesting.
Yeah, the whole thought is very different. Therefore, what is congruent that actually works together? Yeah. It is spirituality. Yeah.
You know, the common complaint of parents, and we get a lot of questions like these, that children don't listen to us. We've provided them everything. We've given them the best education. They have the best stuff. They have, everything what a parent can provide. And sometimes the parents also give them time, but yet they are not able to handle kids. What do you think is the missing element, which even while giving time, trying to communicate with them, what is it that misses out in your perspective?
I think very often, and it was the case for me too, that we misunderstand love and attachment is the same thing. But I realized through this knowledge that love is totally different from attachment. As a mother, you give birth to your kids, you are very attached, and we think that is love. But when kids start feeling that attachment, they feel heavy. They don't want to take that attachment from you anymore once they grow up. So I also learned a lot from this knowledge. And once this was only one day. It came just suddenly. I didn't know what was wrong. Then suddenly I had very total feeling of detachment from him. I still love him, but he is one being. So that time he was actually competing in the speech competition. Then, of course, as a mother, very anxious, right? Normally, I get very anxious. Oh, will he make a mistake? Will he be okay? Will he not fall on the stage and everything, right? But that day, I was very detached. And I was trying to be with Baba, be calm, just see him as my son, but as a soul, right? So I was very detached, and he did very, very well. And when we are waiting for the result, normally I would get very, my heart will pump and I get very nervous, but I didn't. Then I think he could feel that my detachment, so he did well, so he got first prize. That was a very big learning for me. So after that, I know how I can be detached, and I think that helps the kids' growth a lot.
Very interesting, and you. It seems when you're talking, we can sense the sense of freedom as you're experiencing a detached stage.
Yes.
And very often, yogis talk about being loving yet detached. It's very easy to say, but very difficult to practice. Very difficult to practice. Many come up and say that. Harry, what has been your experience in your life? Because it's easy to detach from people whom we are not close with, whom we dislike. It's easy to get detached. But if I am in a close-knit, intimate relation, intimate family, my very close family, how do I get detached? Because I am with them all the time, and yet I have to be detached, and yet I have to be loving. So how do you create this balance in your life? Tell us more about your experience.
In this case, I think it is wonderful for what my wife is saying, because there's nothing more attachable than you carry this little baby for 9 months and give birth to it. You have to be attached to it. I mean, in any language and culture, it is silly that you are not attached to. Of course, I love my son because this is my son. I gave birth to you. There's a Chinese saying that, I've been carrying you for 9 months and you're treating me like this. But it is wonderful because detachment is not ignore. It doesn't mean ignore. It means confidence. It means respect. So kids actually knows. There are certain culture called hunting gatherings, in the olden age where there are 20 or 30 people of adult all the way to kids. There is no activity of you are kids, I'm adult. They just play together. They work together. Okay. There is no someone saying that, oh, don't play with fire. A 2-year-old will go and start a fire, and then as much as they go, ouch, they burn their fingers the first time. What happened? They learn. So they don't burn themselves anymore. They learn faster than us. So from there, I think it's very important to see that the difference between detachment and ignore. We're not ignoring. In fact, you have to give so much confidence, therefore you can detach. And you have to do so much more preparation, therefore you can detach. For example, a very carefree value, we talk about freedom. Kids very often will use that on parents. Mom, I have my own freedom. Why don't you let me do this? Now, this is a cliche. And that actually, if you read the subtitles, kids actually say something, but what we have to do first of all is to really listen. And there is nothing wrong in not answering. Sometimes silence is golden. Yeah, and then you think about it, because sometimes they're saying it out of emotion. If you don't say anything, then they reprocess what they said, and maybe that would be great. We do not have to solve every single problem with logic, but we have to understand everything with love. So listening out is very important, and then about this freedom thing where kids actually are craving for freedom, is actually the subtitle is, did you really give me the right interpretation of what freedom is? Because if we did, then they would recognize it. So at the right place, we should give them the freedom to make choices. And I think that's very important. But more importantly is, I think the toolkit we give our kids for them to grow up. And the toolkit usually is food, is warmth, is education, a lot of toys. They want iPhones nowadays as well. What are these? All material things. try to give them something that money cannot buy. And you will be very surprised. Like our son, actually, does he want the iPhone? Does he want all these things? Yes. But as we're sitting here now, we traveled this time, he didn't bring any toy. He brought a few books. He said, Dad, I've realized I don't need them. I can still be very happy. And so there is much more than we can give our kids than things that money can buy. And in Hong Kong, there is a really good saying. I like it very much. A lot of people knows that Hong Kong is very fast-growing place with finance and everything. But we also have a saying that Hong Kong is so poor that there is only money.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you really got this thing that we're trying to give kids, we're trying to give people whom we care for, everything which is material. And because we're running after that material thing, sometimes we don't have the time to invest in that which is invisible, that which money can't buy.
Exactly, exactly. And the most interesting is, it is actually the easiest thing that parents can think of. Because all I have to do is to make more money, therefore I can fulfill their dream. But it is not really their dream, and in fact it is us who actually imply this knowledge of love equals to what I buy you, right? So it gets into very dangerous, and then the relationship become more and more shallow. There's no depth. Yeah, but there is genuine love. There is nothing wrong with not buying something. There is nothing wrong with not going out to eat, but we can make some food together. That is an act of love. And that is really beautiful, because from very often from us being very quiet and in meditation, we found out then that life can be so much more creative.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, it's trying to replace or compensate for that genuine love or genuine respect with maybe something we buy for one another, or we go out somewhere to buy, you know, to eat out. But it's more of a compensation technique rather than the genuine thing that we can, you know, be together and create that love together.
That's
and
right.
that real thing that people crave for. And maybe if we really invest into that, there is no need for something extra. At the same time, something very interesting you said, that it is nothing wrong to have an iPhone. There's nothing wrong in having things which are material, but you're not dependent on it. When I'm done with it, I can use other things. There are other dimensions in life that people can explore.
That's right.
There's a great story. Actually, I heard it from one of our retreats. There was a kid who said to the father, he said, Daddy, Mommy, I know what I would like to be when I grow up. Oh, the parents are so excited, right? You know, very rarely these days, you know, a youngster, you know, think even about the future. They just think about what is in front of them. Literally in front of them, like 6 inches away.
Absolutely.
Okay, right?
Yes, yeah.
But they don't have this insight. But this kid said, Daddy and Mommy, I know what I want to be when I grow up. So the parents said, what would you like to be? He said, I want to be an iPhone. Why? Why would you like to be an iPhone when you grow up? He said, because you and Mommy are always on the iPhone. You pay more attention. If I had half of the attention I got, like the iPhone got from you, I think I would be a better kid.
That's right. Yeah.
That says a lot.
There's a very, very deep meaning that you know, parents can, and you know, we as people can take from this little story which you shared. And an interesting bit which you shared was being detached is being confident. You know, being detached is being more loving. Being detached is being more caring. So when we talk to you and we get this feeling is that you are a family, yet when you've imbibed these spiritual principles of Raj Yoga, it's not that you've detached or separated, but it seems that the family has grown and has become more loving.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's very much like, okay, let's go back to toys. It's like buying an already made car. You cannot take it apart. But now we are actually more separate. It's like different Lego piece. So the possibility is endless. So we can be separate, but we can be together. And when we are together, it forms different things. So how wonderful that is. And like what you said, sister, at the beginning of this session, you said some parents said, I even give you time. Think about that. To adults, the most important thing is time. Look, son, I even give you time. But there is nothing more important than time. And that's, if anything, mom or dad, that's all I need from you. Give me more time.
Exactly. What is it that you would like to add, Ayako?
Having spirituality in our family actually make us have genuine respect to each other, regardless of the role of husband and son or mother. But we are individual, we respect each other, but we grow together, so we can do a lot of things together, and we have so much in common because of the knowledge, which I really am appreciative.
Very interesting. And you know, as we are getting close to wrap this special conversation, it'll be very interesting to take your last perspective on which is that most important value that a person needs to consider if he wants to have harmony in the family.
Well, think of the 8 powers we have. And let's not use all of them. The 8 powers that we learned from Baba, the one is tolerant. Be tolerant, and then suddenly you will become accepting everything, and you'll be young again. And it would be wonderful to actually go back to your kid's age and do something of their level. Come to talk about it, it's about time for me to go, because I'm solving this Rubik Cube with my son. And we are trying to figure it out together. And how wonderful. So that goes back to what you said before. Not only we live together, we play together, we meditate together, we learn together, and we progress together.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, and we've really learned a lot that spirituality can actually bring us closer as a family, can actually make us more loving, and can be the key to progress and happiness in our life. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.